Good morning, boys and girls. I'm Eleanor Hawkins, and welcome to Telestory Time. I want to read The Library, a Magic Castle. Come to the magic castle when you are growing tall. Rows upon rows of word windows line every single wall. They reach up high as the sky, and you want to open them all, for every time you open one, a new adventure has begun. The Library, a Magic Castle. And now, boys and girls, I want to read you our very first story. And the one I've chosen is entitled, The Puppy on Parade. Timmy was a Cairns Terrier, and he had long silky hair on his legs and body and tail and head. His hair was especially long on his head. It hung down over his eyes, way, way down, like bangs that need a haircut. This bothered Timmy a great deal, because when he went out walking, he could only see half of anything. A house had steps, but that was all. An automobile had wheels, but no top. People were just shoes walking along. Other dogs had paws, but no tails. Cats had furry claws, but no ears. He often felt like crying, and sometimes he did. But even his tears were covered up under his long bangs. One day a beautiful circus parade went by. Poor Timmy peeped hopefully through the fence, but all he could see was half lions, half tigers, and the backs of camels, the fronts of wagons, and the baggy pants of clowns. Oh, it was terrible seeing only half of everything. When the parade had gone by, Timmy was so sad he just sat down by the gate and cried. Nicky and his mother were getting ready to go to the circus, but they heard Timmy crying, and they hurried out. "Oh," said Nicky's mother, when she saw the tears rolling down Timmy's face, and she tried to dry them with her handkerchief. But the bangs got in the way, and Timmy cried harder than ever. "I shall have to tie up your bangs," his mistress shouted, and she ran to get a piece of plaid ribbon. She gathered all the long, long hairs over Timmy's eyes and tied them tightly in a gay plaid bow. Timmy just couldn't believe it at first. He blinked and blinked and blinked. What do you think he saw? A whole house with green shutters, and a whole red brick chimney, a whole apple tree, and a whole cat that had climbed over the fence, a whole blue sky, a whole white cloud, and a whole Nicky. Timmy shook himself all over and wagged his tail wildly. Then, with a loud bark and a huge swoosh, he jumped right over the gate. "I guess Timmy is going for a stroll," said Nicky's mother. "I'm sure he'll be back by the time we get home from the circus." But now that Timmy could see every bit of everything, he was going to see every bit of the exciting circus. He could see the circus tents in the distance, all of them, and the waving flags, each one of them. Timmy ran into the biggest tent. He saw an empty seat in the front row, and he hopped right up on it. Oh, people laughed because they thought he was part of the circus. "Woof, woof," barked Timmy happily. The circus parade marched into the tent. This time Timmy didn't see just half of everything. He saw all of the wagons and all animals and all the people. When the clowns came along, Timmy barked louder than ever as he watched them dance and skip and chase each other in and out of the parade. And the last clown in the line was the funniest of all. The last clown was very tiny and dressed like a baby. He had big ruffled bonnet on his head. In one hand he carried a lollipop as big as his head. With the other hand he was pulling a little cart with two white poodles in it. The poodles were seated on a pink blanket, and their hair was tied up over their eyes with pink plaid ribbons. When Timmy saw the poodles, he became so excited he leaped over the railing and into the ring. And what do you think he did? He hopped right into the cart with the poodles. The poodles were very polite and they moved over to make room for him. Oh, the crowd roared with laughter, and the little clown danced and skipped and waved his lollipop. They paraded all around the tent. Just as they got to the entrance, a little boy's voice shouted, "Mother, that's Timmy in the circus cart." Timmy looked up and saw Nicky and his mother watching him. Timmy was so glad to see them that he nearly tipped the cart over, poodles and all. "Now, what do you suppose made him come to the circus?" Nicky asked his mother. "Oh, I don't know," Mother said, shaking her head. But Timmy looked wise, and his eyes were bright, and the wonderful plaid bow bobbed up and down. Yes, Timmy had come and he had seen the whole circus. And that, boys and girls, is the story of the puppy parade. And now stay tuned, and we'll be back in just a moment to read from our big Do You Know book. Please stay tuned. And now, boys and girls, I'm going to read from our big Do You Know book. We are celebrating Black History Month, and I have some Do You Knows all about famous African Americans. Do you know we have celebrated Black History Month since 1976? Before that, we celebrated Black History Week. Do you know Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. gave his famous speech, "I Have a Dream," on August the 28th, 1963. And do you know that there were over 200,000 people in Washington, D.C. that day to hear this speech? Over 200,000 people. Remarkable. Do you know that Coretta Scott King Awards are given each year to an author and an illustrator of children's books who promoted the cause of peace and brotherhood? And do you know that Dr. Martin Luther King received the Nobel Peace Prize in 1964? I bet you know this one. Do you know that Michael Jordan, the outstanding basketball player, is from Wilmington, North Carolina, and he played basketball at UNC Chapel Hill? Do you know Jackie Robinson of the Brooklyn Dodgers became the very first black player in Major League Baseball in 1947? He helped break down racial barriers in all professional sports. Do you know Booker T. Washington, the principal of Tuskegee Institute, was the most influential United States black leader of the early 1900s? Do you know, in 1989, Colin Powell, a United States Army general, became the first black chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. Now, this is the top military advisory group in the United States. Do you know that Carol Moseley Braun of Illinois became the first black woman elected to the United States Senate in 1992? Be sure and visit your public library sometime during this next week. Any of the libraries in the Craven, Pamlico, Carteret Regional Library System. and check out some very good books on Black Americans on your very own library card. And now stay tuned, and we'll be back with another story in just a moment. And now, boys and girls, I'm going to read you the old favorite, The Brave Little Tailor. One morning, a little tailor sat at his table, humming softly as he stitched some clothes. In and out went his needle. As soon as I sew one more seam, he said to himself, I'll give myself a treat. When the seam was finished, the tailor put his work aside and took some bread and jelly from a shelf. He spread the jelly over a thick slice of bread. Then, just as he was about to take a bite, some flies began buzzing around his head. Shoo, who invited you here? He asked irritably. Go away, and he whisked his hand at them. But the flies swarmed around all the more, hoping to get a share of the delicious treat. Angrily, the tailor picked up a large towel and swung it hard. Wham! When he looked again, there were 7 dead flies on the table before him. Oh, 7 at one blow, he exclaimed joyfully. Now that is something worth telling the whole world about. He took a belt and stitched on it in large letters, 7 at one blow. Then proudly he fastened it around his waist and prepared to go out into the world. Now, before closing his shop, the little tailor put an old piece of cheese into his pocket for dinner. Just outside his front door, he noticed a small bird caught in the bushes. Being of kind heart, he reached in among the twigs and rescued the bird, only to put it absent-mindedly into his pocket with the cheese. And then he marched on. Now he had not gone very far when he came upon a tall giant who happened to be sitting atop a tall mountain. Ho there, said the tailor boldly, would you care to walk with me and see the world? The giant looked down at the little man. I would not travel with a creature such as the likes of you, he sneered. Oh, you might think otherwise if you but knew what I have done, bragged the tailor. And he showed the giant his belt. 7 at one blow, read the giant, thinking that these words told of men whom the tailor had killed. He began to feel a new respect for the little fellow, but then he thought of a test. He picked up a stone and held it in his huge palm. He closed his fist slowly and squeezed until drops of water trickled from the stone. Now, can you match that? He asked. Now I can try, said the little man. He reached into his pocket and took out the old piece of cheese, which looked very much like a stone, and squeezed it until the whey ran out. Oh, the giant was amazed at how anyone so small could have such great strength. So he picked up another stone and threw it up into the air. He threw it so high that it was a long while before it fell back to earth again. Now do that if you can, he challenged in a loud voice. An excellent throw, but really only child's play, the tailor said, reaching into his pocket for the bird that he now remembered was there. And with a swift movement, he tossed the bird up into the air. And so happy was the bird to be free that it soared out of sight, nor did it return. Oh, you have a powerful arm to throw like that, admitted the giant. Now, let me see if you can carry something heavy. Help me carry this fallen oak tree, out of the forest. Oh, very well, said the tailor, walking around the huge tree and out of sight of the giant. You take the trunk on your shoulder, while I take the branches, which are ever so much bigger and harder to manage. As the giant struggled to lift the heavy tree onto his shoulder, the tailor hopped on a branch, and he sat there whistling while the giant trudged onward, never thinking for a moment that he was carrying both the tree and the tailor. Soon the giant wearied of the load. Look out, he shouted. I must let the tree drop. The tree crashed to the ground, and an instant after the tailor had jumped nimbly from its branches. But when the giant turned around, the tailor had hold of the tree with both hands, as if he had been helping all the time. The giant, puffing wearily, saw that the little man did not look a bit tired, and indeed still had breath enough to whistle. Oh, you're a better man than I am, he shouted over his shoulder as he made off in another direction. It was plain to see that I would have trouble keeping pace with you. The brave little tailor started off once again until at last he came to the courtyard of the king's palace. There he lay down on the grass to rest and soon fell asleep. Several people who passed by noticed the words on his belt, 7 at one blow, and they hurried to tell the king. The king was greatly impressed and sent word to have the tailor brought before him. I have need of a mighty champion in my army, said the king. From what I see on your belt, you would be very helpful. Oh, I shall be glad to join your service, your majesty, replied the little tailor. But when the soldiers of the king's army learned that they were to serve with a man who could kill 7 at one blow, they were afraid for their own safety, and they told the king that such a man would be dangerous to have around. And then the king agreed, and believing that it would be best to rid himself of the little man, sent for the tailor. Now in my forest are 2 of the most dreadful giants in the world, the king told the tailor. They have laughed at every attempt by my men to do away with them. If you can destroy them, you may have the hand of my daughter in marriage. As strong as the tailor was reported to be, the king did not think he would return from this task. 2 giants? Why, that's nothing to one who has killed 7 at one blow, said the little man. Into the forest went the tailor, where he soon discovered the 2 giants asleep under a tree, snoring as loudly as the roars of 100 lions. The sound was frightful enough to have sent away any ordinary man as fast as his legs would carry him. But the brave little tailor calmly picked up some stones and climbed up into the overhanging branches of the tree. Taking very careful aim, he dropped one of the stones. Clunk! It landed on the nose of one of the giants, and he awoke with a start. He sat up and looked at his companion. Why did you hit me? Roared the giant, pushing the other giant who lay beside him. I never touched you, replied the second giant. You must have been dreaming. They both settled down to sleep again. This time the tailor dropped a stone on the second giant's nose. Ouch, yelled the second giant. Now why did you hit me? He brought his hand hard down on the other giant, and soon the 2 giants were fighting with great fury. They tore up trees, and using them as clubs, swung at each other until at length both giants lay dead. The little tailor climbed down from the tree and returned to the palace. The giants will trouble you no more, he announced to the astonished king. But the king was not ready to give his daughter so easily. Before a wedding can take place, he told the little man, there is one more task for you to do. A fierce unicorn roams my forest, causing terrible destruction. Capture this unicorn, and you shall receive not only the hand of the princess in marriage, but half of my kingdom besides. Once again, the brave little tailor entered the woods and had gone not far when suddenly the dreadful unicorn came charging out through a clearing with its long, sharp horn pointed directly at him. The tailor waited until the beast came closer, and then with a nimble movement he sprang behind the tree. The unicorn turned slightly in its path and ran its horn straight into the trunk of the tree. So deeply did the horn enter the wood that the unicorn could not pull free, and it was captured. Now when the king was informed that the brave little tailor had fulfilled his task, he was obliged to keep his promise. The tailor married the princess amid much royal ceremony and celebration, and thereafter ruled over his half of the kingdom happily for the rest of his days. And that, boys and girls, is the story, The Brave Little Tailor. And now stay tuned, and we'll be back with another story in just a moment. And now, boys and girls, I'm going to read The Three Billy Goats Gruff. Once there were 3 billy goats named Gruff. They wished to go up on the hillside to eat the fresh green grass that grew there, for they were very lean and hungry, and the grass was all gone from their side of the mountain. But there was a little stream over which they must pass to reach the green hillside, and under the bridge which they must cross lived an ugly old troll. "I will go first," said the little billy goat Gruff, and he started across the bridge. Trip, trap, went the bridge. "Who goes tripping over my bridge?" roared the troll. "Oh, it's I'm the little billy goat Gruff," said the little goat. "I go up to the hillside to eat the green grass." "I think I will eat you," said the troll. "Oh, no, don't do that," said the little goat. "My bigger brother is coming. You'd better eat him." "Very well," said the troll, and the goat hurried on trip, trap, over the bridge and up on the hillside to eat the green grass. Soon after, the next billy goat Gruff came along. Trip, trap, went the bridge. "Who goes tripping over my bridge?" roared the troll. "Oh, it's I'm the second billy goat Gruff. I'm going up on the hillside to eat the green grass." "I think I will eat you," said the troll. "Oh, don't eat me. My big brother is coming. You'd better eat him." "Well, be off with you," said the troll. But just then up came the big billy goat Gruff. Trip, trap, went the bridge. "Who goes tripping over my bridge?" roared the troll. "It's I'm the big billy goat Gruff. I go up on the hillside to eat the green grass." "Now I'm coming up to eat you," roared the troll. "Come on then," said the big billy goat Gruff, who had a great hoarse voice of his own, and he lowered his horns, and then the old troll climbed up on the bridge, and he struck him a terrible blow and knocked him down into the water, where he was changed into a great stone. Now if you go over the bridge, you may see that big stone to this day. And that is the story, The Three Billy Goats Gruff. And now, boys and girls, be sure and visit your public library sometime during this next week and check out some very good books on African Americans. Any of the libraries in the Craven, Pamlico, Carteret Regional Library System. Check out some very good books on your very own library card. And now it's time for me to close our book of stories for this morning But we'll be back next Saturday morning. Until then, this is Eleanor Hawkins saying bye-bye for Telestory Time.